We are now talking about the showbreads. This is mitzvah 27. If you're keeping track, it's 27 in your mitzvah count. He shetzivanu lahasim lechem apanim lefan of tamid. So we're commanded to place bread of display always in front of him, capital H. And that is his, capital H. May he be exalted, saying, and on the table shall you set the bread of display to be before me always. So we're in the building. In the Beit HaMikdash itself, it is a dramatic structure that with high ceilings and tapestry and marble floors, and there are a few pieces of furniture. One of the pieces of furniture is a table. It's a multi-layered table. It's a multi-level table. And altogether on this table, there are 12 breads. These breads do not look like loaves, like we imagine loaves of bread that you would buy in a store. They're more like long, they seem to be long breads, more closer to what the Indians call naan, N-A-A-N, naan bread, like a thick version of laffa. They could be up to a hand's breadth thick, high. They have to be matzah, which, I mean, in other words, they cannot be chametz, these breads. But we think of matzah as wafer crackers. But in truth, matzah just means non-risen bread. And so these breads were, they don't have yeast in them, and they're not given an opportunity to rise with the natural yeast in the environment, because they're worked rather quickly and then they're baked. Once they're baked, it's considered, it's done. There's not going to be any more growth. That's part of the baking process. It kills the yeast. So they could be rather thick, like about that, and they were big. It wasn't easy they were heavy. And they would be put in, there were 12 of them altogether. So there were 4 levels. It's either 4 levels with 3 or 3 levels with 4 in each level, but altogether 12 breads. And you shall already know the language of the Torah about placing a new bread every Shabbat. So what would happen in the Beit HaMikdash was for most of the year, as long as it wasn't a holiday, for most of the year, there were key positions in the Beit HaMikdash, which were filled, certain key positions which were filled by permanent Kohanim. In other words, Kohanim who were at the Beit HaMikdash every day, and that was their life. But a lot of the positions were filled by a family of Kohanim that would come, and they would come for a week at a time. They would come twice a year during the off season. In other words, where there's no holidays, they would come twice a year. And so they would be there for a week. Their actual shift for the week would start on Shabbat. So the shift of the family that was there before them, and when I say family, I mean it's not just father and grandfather and brothers, it's cousins and uncles, etc. It's an extended family. And you imagine that the extended family amounts to tens, if not hundreds of people that are all there at the same time, doing the various service which they've been trained to do. Again, there might be select, very skillful positions that have to be done by people that are there all the time, but a lot of the stuff's being done by these people, and their shift would begin, the new watch would begin on Shabbos, and the old one ended on Shabbos during the day. So the one of the symbolic gestures that would symbolize the end of one shift and the beginning of the next one was the bringing in of the showbreads. So the old shift would bring in the showbreads, and the new shift would help put them on the table, and the old showbreads were taken off the table and then shared by members of both shifts. They would partake of those showbreads, which were still fresh. You shall know the language of Torah about placing new bread every Shabbos, and that frankincense be with it, and that the priests eat the bread made from the previous Shabbos. Frankincense was in a like a spoon. There was like a big spoonish thing that had the frankincense, and it would sit on top of the breads. And the regulations of this commandment have already been explained in chapter 11 of Menachot. So Menachot is the tractate that deals with it. A mincha offering is an offering that is not from animals or birds. So a typical mincha is coming from wheat grain, and it could be a bread, it could be flour, it could be fried, a kind of fried dough. These were baked, but it is one of the major elements that's discussed in the tractate Menachot. Okay, so that's the bread. And the bread, one of the characteristics of this bread is it was always fresh, which means you assume that the Kohen who's walking into this room is smelling fresh bread. So there's the aroma of fresh bread when you're in that room. And then there is this, which is the incense. So this is Mitzvah 28.
I have one question. So they would actually bake the new showbreads on Friday? When would the baking take place?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. It's possible they baked it on Shabbos. I'm not sure.
Really?
It's possible. I mean, for instance, those elements of a korban that are supposed to be done here. Let's look that up for a second. Let's just see here. This actually doesn't answer it, but it has good pictures. I just want to show you these pictures for a second. I'm just going to try to, let's see if I can. See if this works. Oh, it won't let me spotlight me. Let me spotlight me. Oh, because I'm looking at the text, it won't let me. But anyways, this has these sort of an interesting series of pictures here. Get it so I can show it to you. It's not. Let's see here. I'll turn. So these were like, each one had like a form that it would be fit into. And then there's an example of the dough being put over the form. So you see how it really, it looks like it's pretty thick and long, that stuff. And then that's what it looks like. The shape, that's after it's baked. So it has that funny kind of shape. When it's finally put on the table, it looks like the form. See? Sort of funny how the bread looks. It's like flat for most of it and then rounded at the end. That's how they see it, or squared at the end. All right, so back to baking it. I'm just going to say, instead of when, I'm just going to say, were they baked on Shabbos? So, let's see here. Oh, it says, they're quoting from the Gemara, the baking of the loaves was not allowed on Shabbos. This necessarily required that these sanctified loaves were only placed on the table the next day on Shabbos afternoon. Did this not cause the sanctified loaves to be disqualified by being left on the table overnight? So they were not baked on Shabbos, it says. This is a Gemara in Omer of Ashi, my Kushya. So this is what daf? Menachos, daf 95. So it says they were not, it makes this, they're not allowed to be baked on Shabbos. Thank you for asking that question. And that information wasn't easy to come by. Okay. So the reason I was open to the possibility was because any sacrificial work that needs to be done on Shabbos is done on Shabbos. So for instance, the Tamid offering, which is the everyday offering brought 365 days a year in the morning and the afternoon, the animal is slaughtered on Shabbos, even though you're not supposed to slaughter on Shabbos. And then it is cooked on Shabbos because it is, it's burnt on the altar on Shabbos. So even though, and also the incense is going to be burnt on Shabbos, because there's incense that's done every day of the year. again, that would technically be a violation of Shabbos, but the rule is that any mitzvah that is related to the sacrifice that is supposed to be done on that day is supposed to be done on that day. We also do bris milah on Shabbos, even though it seems to involve work that would be otherwise forbidden to do on Shabbos. Okay, we'll start with the incense tomorrow. I am so grateful to be able to learn with you guys again. It just means the world to me, and I look forward to learning with you tomorrow.
Shkoyach, Rabbi, thank you.
Be well.
Oh, thank
Okay.
you so much, Rabbi.
Rabbi, when they commented to you about that they recognized that Yonah was consistent with what their story was,
Yeah.
your response, I had a perfect response for you. You could have said, "Acha, acha." Of course, that was from Coming to America with Eddie Murphy.
Yes.
Anyway, I just thought you'd appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you. Be well.
All right, thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.